Good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, March 4, 2026, and we're here for another post-cabinet press briefing. And this morning, you have some very special guests with us here. You'd have seen the flyer, and you'd have seen two very handsome men on there, young, handsome men. But we decided, that there were more issues that needed to be addressed this morning, so we have more ministers with you. And so this morning, I'm very happy to add to the list, but I'll start with the two that were on for this morning. The Honorable Daryl, Minister of Energy, Telecommunications and Transport, and the one that many people tune in to hear, the Honorable Delroy, Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, and I'm so happy to have here the Honorable Marissa Dalrymple Philibert, who is here for the first time since I've been Minister of Information at Post-Cab, and so I'm very happy about that. And guess who is here too? Someone who a lot of people want to hear from. The extraordinary, the best Minister of Foreign Affairs we have ever had. Senator, the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith is here. She was not on the flyer, but what we try to do in this administration is to provide you with the information as quickly as we can. And we know that there are a lot of topical issues in relation to foreign affairs. And so she is here to speak to us on at least one area. We also have with us the Honorable Rhoda Moy Crawford, who is the State Minister in the best ministry, other ministers, the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information. We also have Senator Marlon Morgan, our Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information, who is doing such a good job of spreading all of what we say here. We also have the Chief Education Officer with us, and many other people from the ministry are here. We have Grace Ann Stewart McFarlane, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, and hopefully after today you'll come more often to Post-Cab. We also have representatives from the Jamaica Prefects Association, and I'll introduce them later. This week is National Prefects Week, and I know that we have one person with us so far, Katara Robinson, who's been here from after 7. And I believe you're at, which school are you at? Manchester High, where I was just at last week. And she's been here from 7 a.m. so she could be here on time. And so I want to welcome you and thank you for coming so early. And so all the other members of staff from supporting government entities, and we also have some members from the National Youth Council of Jamaica, the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students, and also some students from Mico University College. And of course, as always, to the members of the media who are here and Jamaicans watching at home and abroad, good morning again to all of you. Since we have a packed morning, I'm going to move very quickly into the presentations. But before that, I just have to put on record here in our post-cabinet press briefing today, the ROOFs program. That's the Restoration of Owner or Occupant Family Shelters program. And to date, the government has disbursed over $5 billion in grants. $5 billion. We've earmarked $10 billion, and $5 billion has been allocated and disbursed. And this is being done by the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. And you will recall that under this program, those affected by Hurricane Melissa are getting grants. And you have some that are getting $75,000 for minor damage, $200,000 for major damage, and $500,000 for severe damage. And it's mainly focused on restoring the roof of these structures, which is very, very important. And so for us as government, we are very proud of this program. The Ministry of Labor and its team, they did many assessments across the country, and we have moved very quickly to disburse these funds. This is unheard of in our country, and this again is an example of a government that cares and a government that can deliver on its promises. And so we're very happy. We're happy for those in the West and in other parishes too, because it's not just concentrated in the West that are getting this assistance, and we know it will go a far way in getting many individuals back on their feet. And so we're very happy for that, and I could not say that this morning. So we're going to go straight into our ministers, and there's a little bit of an order we're going to do. We're going to have Minister Vaz first, and then we'll have Minister Johnson-Smith, and then we will have Minister Chuck rounding out the ministers this morning. And so, Minister Vaz, please welcome him.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everybody, colleague ministers, permanent secretaries, heads of agencies, and all others. This morning I have a few updates. First and foremost would be the status of the restoration, Melissa restoration with JPS. I'll also give a quick update on the electricity license negotiation, the United Oil and Gas update, and also National Energy Poverty Reduction Program. And last but not least, I'll give something on the impact of the U.S.-Israel-Iran conflict on local fuel prices. But let's start with the big one. Today I'll report on key milestones in Jamaica's recovery and energy advancement following Hurricane Melissa, and on strategic initiatives shaping the nation's electricity and energy future. These updates reflect a government that acts decisively, honors commitments, and prioritizes resilience, safety, and long-term development. As of February 28th, 124 days after Hurricane Melissa, 99% of JPS customers now have electricity. Approximately 681,000 of 690,000 customers are back in supply. At the end of February, a clear public commitment was made that fewer than 10,000 customers would remain without electricity. That pledge was met, and as I said before, as of March 1st, 9,135 customers remain without electricity. So let's put that in perspective. The government made a commitment in December that we would loan JPS $150 million on the basis that we would have full restoration, save and accept circumstances out of their control as of February 2026. Commitment made, commitment kept. As of right now, 8,653 customers, as of today, are still without power. JPS will continue to deploy crews while working 24/7 for the month of March and April to complete restoration. These customers are primarily in Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, which sustained catastrophic damage where Melissa made landfall. An additional 5,000 customers are expected to be restored in the month of March. So that would mean that as of the end of March, 3,600 customers will remain without electricity. Those will go into April, and we are looking to close off in April. So, as of right now, Westmoreland is at 83% restoration. 5,568 customers in Westmoreland remain without electricity. St. Elizabeth is at 92% with 3,416 customers, and St. James at 99% with 151 customers. Let me remind Jamaica that in December when I spoke at this post cab, Westmoreland was at 18%. Memories are short, so we have to remind people. They are now at 83%, which would have meant half of December, January and February. 10 weeks. St. Elizabeth was at about 40-something%. They are now at 92% with 3,416. So I want to put it in perspective that the commitment, first of all, the decision that the government took for that $150 million is the best decision taken because it has now made restoration at 99%. And let me remind Jamaica that it wasn't me who said it, but the president of the JPS that said without the intervention of the government, we would be looking at last quarter of 2026 for restoration. Last quarter meaning September 2026 to December 2026. I just ask you to imagine what would happen to Jamaica. Productivity, economic growth, social, anything you can think of without restoration as a number one priority. So for St. Elizabeth, yes, we have it. We have the districts that are aimed for March that we will make sure is widely circulated. St. Elizabeth, 36 districts and communities will get back light in the month of March. And for Westmoreland, the same 36 will get back light in the month of March. St. James, Huntley and Kemshot, and Hanover Milestown. So the emphasis really is on St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland. And as I said before, we are not stopping until everybody is restored. So those areas that have not been restored as of February 28th will get priority attention, many of them in March, and the outside will be April. So once again, let me congratulate the JPS led by President Hugh Grant and of course the entire government apparatus that has worked tirelessly to get this result, which I would say is one of the best pieces of news that could be stated for a government to have made a commitment and lived up to that commitment to the T, 99% restoration by the targeted date of February 28th, 2026. Let's move on to the All-Island electricity license, but let me remind you that Melissa would have caused us to have a request for an extension of the existing license for up to 10 years. That is what was requested and supported by the multilaterals. The commitment that the government made that a new license would be in place for 2027 was a commitment that we could not break. Therefore, we were able to separate the two issues, the damage from Melissa, and deal with that through a loan, and the continued negotiations for a new license for better terms and conditions and better rates for the Jamaican public with a new license. Cabinet was updated on progress towards All-Island electricity license, which is scheduled to take effect in 2027. In November 2025, the ministry entered a new contract with Francis Maud Associates representing Phase 1 of a structured three-phase reform process to establish a modernized license framework. The initial phase runs through April 26 and focuses on defining the key commercial, regulatory, and legal foundations for the new regime. The work is being carried out by a dedicated electricity license negotiation team comprises of officers of the Ministry of Energy, Transport and Telecommunications, Attorney General's Chambers, Ministry of Finance and Public Service, the OUR, as well as energy specialists from the private sector and academia. The team is chaired by former Permanent Secretary Carol Palmer and meets weekly to ensure coordinated and timely progress. A draft heads of terms has already been prepared and submitted for Cabinet's consideration, which was done on Monday, and approved, Monday meaning 2 days ago, outlining the principal features of the proposed license framework following Cabinet's approval. The detailed legal structure will be finalized and formal negotiations will commence with the Jamaica Public Service. Beginning in April 26, FMA's broader workstream schedule will advance into a 16-month sectoral framework development and implementation phase. This includes the preparation of a new Electricity Act, amendments to the OUR Act, strengthened enforcement provisions, establishment of the LCCCJ renegotiation of power purchase agreements, updated policies to address system losses and grid resilience, and publication of a draft white paper setting out the full scope of reforms. The process also provides structured pathways depending on the outcome of negotiation, including new licensing arrangements for transmission, distribution, and generation, and transition support to government, valuation mechanisms where required, and if necessary, competitive engagement of alternative operators. What does that mean? We're not putting all our eggs in one basket. If the negotiations with JPS do not prove fruitful, we have alternatives that we can go to make sure that come 2027, a new license is in place for whoever it is. This approach is deliberate, structured, and reform-driven. It assures by 2027, Jamaica will have in place a modern, transparent, and resilient electricity license framework that protects consumers, strengthens regulation, and attracts investment and aligns the sector with the country's long-term development objectives. So again, work is continuing, and as we did with the Melissa restoration, we will do with the license negotiation and have a new license in the timeline for next year, July 2027, to make sure that we tick that box. Very quickly, the oil and gas survey update. Most significant update today concerns Jamaica's offshore oil and gas exploration efforts. The surface geochemical survey conducted by United Oil and Gas was successfully completed on February 28, 2026. As a research vessel returned to Kingston Harbor, the survey lasted 34 days, operating on a 24-hour shifts with no reported safety incidents, no environmental accidents, and no conflicts with fisherfolk. During the mission, 1,189 line kilometers of multi-beam echo sounder data was collected to map the seafloor. Heat flow probe data was gathered to analyze temperature gradients. Most importantly, piston cores were taken from 42 locations across the Walton and Morant basins for direct testings of oil and gas presence. These cores have now been offloaded and are en route to a lab in the United States for detailed analysis. Results are expected within 2 to 3 months. This is not simply a technical exercise, it is a meaningful step towards understanding the geological potential of offshore Jamaica. The data collected is state-of-the-art and will inform evidence-based decision-making about the country's energy future. I want to commend the technical teams, marine crews, regulators, and support personnel who ensure the safe and successful completion of this mission. As we await the lab results, the government remains committed to a responsible science-led approach. Exploration does not mean exploitation without safeguards. It means gathering facts, analyzing data, and making informed decisions in the best interest of Jamaica. So once again, I caution everybody to be patient and calm and to listen to the government on this very sensitive matter. 3 months, 2 to 3 months before we hear anything positive or negative, and therefore we don't expect to have anything, rumors circulating about the discovery of oil or gas. When I tell you that is so, then it is so. Until such time, we just hope and pray. Okay, in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa, the government committed $852 million Jamaican dollars through the National Energy Poverty Reduction Program to restore electricity and safety to affected households. Between the 10th of February and the 3rd of March, the National Energy Poverty Reduction Program recorded significant gains across multiple parishes. Clarendon moved from 50% to 95% completion for 300 house wiring interventions. Manchester advanced from 35% to 55%, while St. Elizabeth improved from 40% to 55% in Black River and adjoining communities. St. Mary improved from 65% to 85%, and importantly, 250 rewiring and recertification works were done in Catherine Hall and West Green St. James, which have now reached 100% completion. We all know that those two areas were the hardest hit in the hurricane, especially in the low-lying areas of Montego Bay, St. James. The program has also expanded in scope. An additional 200 house wiring interventions were added to Santa Cruz and Balaclava, St. Elizabeth, bringing the total households under active implementation from 2,742 to 2,942. Works in St. Anne and Westmoreland remain in the early stages, with site preparation mobilization now underway and targeted completion dates extending into March and April. Financially, the expansion has increased the house wiring allocation from 1,200 to 1,400 households, moving that component from 180 million to 210. The minor repairs and certification allocation remains 462 million, and GR certification support continues at 180 million. So overall, the active program envelope has grown from 822.2 to 852.2 million, reflecting the scale-up in beneficiary coverage. Overall, nearly 3,000 households are actively being restored, with all projects on track to meet scheduled targets, demonstrating tangible, measurable results in government's commitment to the post-hurricane recovery and energy access. Let me repeat again. These are grants. These are grants given to those who are affected who would not normally be able to afford the rewiring and recertification, which can go as much as $180,000 to $200,000 per household. $852 million is being granted to those badly affected persons who would not be able to get back light, even when light comes to their community, because they would not be in a position to have their house in a state of readiness. Once again, showing joined up government between all of the different aspects of the recovery and a caring government. Last but not least, it would be remiss of me not to mention the present crisis in the Middle East and its potential effects on Jamaica's fuel economy, international oil prices, which have increased in recent weeks due to the geopolitical tensions in the Middle East. However, it is important to understand that crude oil and finished petroleum products are traded in separate markets, and movement in crude oil prices do not automatically or proportionally translate into local pump prices. The pricing mechanism used by Petrojam also helps to mitigate full exposure to sudden price shocks. The extent of any local impact will depend on how sustained these international price movements are. Petrojam continues to monitor closely changes in the U.S. Gulf Coast reference for finished petroleum products, which serve as a primary pricing benchmark for the region and determines Petrojam's ex-refinery prices. Based on early analysis of the USGC reference, fuel prices have been trending upward in an apparent response to the current U.S.-Iran tensions. We will continue to assess developments carefully and keep the public advised and informed. Jamaica's recovery and energy progress is a testament to what can be achieved when commitment meets coordinated action. From restoring electricity and modernizing our networks to advancing offshore energy research, the government remains steadfast in delivering results for the people while we are building a more resilient, connected, and future-ready Jamaica. I thank you very much, and I think that today is a very good day for the people of Jamaica and Jamaica, the land we love. God bless Jamaica.
Thank you, Minister Vaz. As always, a very, very comprehensive presentation. And he really is an example of what we have in our cabinet, persons who are very, very much knowledgeable of their area, very committed to this work. He works night and day, and he even harasses me in terms of doing things that relate to his area. He is so hardworking, and so is the entire cabinet. And one of those that's just as hardworking that we see all the time is Senator, the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith, who is now going to come and give you some quick updates. Almost.
Thank you, Minister Morris Dixon, and thank you for always ensuring that you do your very best to keep the people of Jamaica informed, including harnessing your unplanned colleagues, pulling us literally out of traffic and rerouting us to make sure that we share information with you, which we're, of course, always ready to do. I say to, and I greet my cabinet colleagues and all the attendees here, representatives of different ministries, departments, and agencies, the prefects who are here with us today. We welcome you all, and we welcome everyone who is online. I know that there are many issues which you would wish me to speak on this morning, but I hope you'll indulge me in ensuring that what I stick to is quite narrow and focused in light of the uncertainty which exists. What I wish to do is to provide an updated advisory in respect of the Middle East. And Minister, I hope you'll allow me this opportunity and indulge me in simply reading the second advisory from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade on behalf of the Government of Jamaica in respect of developments in the Middle East. The Government of Jamaica continues to monitor with concern the rapidly evolving security situation in the Middle East, which has further deteriorated in recent days. The government hopes for an immediate cessation of hostilities and urges calm and restraint for the protection of civilian life. The public is reminded of the guidance offered in our most recent advisory to avoid all travel to the region. Nationals already in the Middle East are encouraged to exercise extreme caution and to follow instructions from official sources. It is noted that commercial air services across parts of the region have been disrupted, with cancellations and periodic airspace restrictions affecting several routes. However, some commercial flights continue to operate from certain locations, and Jamaican nationals who wish to depart should remain vigilant, should monitor these flights, and should consider available options once it is safe to do so. Nationals in region should therefore continue to follow the instructions of local authorities and to remain alert to developments that may impact their safety. It is important to remind Jamaicans and your families to rely on verified information from official sources and established news organizations. Unverified reports circulating online may contribute to confusion and anxiety, and individuals are therefore encouraged to also exercise caution before sharing or acting on unverified information. The ministry also acknowledges the responsiveness of Jamaican nationals who have reached out through Jamaica's overseas diplomatic and consular missions and to our headquarters to provide updates on their welfare. And we will remain engaged throughout this period as we consider the further actions which may be required. Further updates will be provided from time to time as necessary. I want to highlight, especially for those who may be listening online who are engaged directly with persons in the region, that the town hall that is being hosted by our High Commissioner to India, who is accredited to Qatar and the UAE, The town hall, which was originally scheduled for 7:30 UAE time, has been moved to 8:30 UAE time. That is 11:30 a.m. Jamaica time, but it is 8:30 p.m. UAE time. The details and the Zoom link have been circulated in all the WhatsApp groups, and they are available from the ministry as well. I want to advise of the numbers of persons who have registered as well. In the UAE, we have 85 Jamaicans who have registered, who have made themselves known. Kuwait, 44. Qatar, 40. Bahrain, 6. Saudi Arabia, 1. Oman, 1. And Israel, 1. This is up to 178 as at this morning. As at yesterday afternoon, it was 138. So there are persons who are making themselves known. There are also persons who have been able to leave the region. I myself spoke with a couple who was able to leave yesterday, but they are traveling, or they traveled to Bangkok. The difficulty is with flights coming in this direction. As far as I am aware, I believe the UAE has opened some corridors for safe air travel, but the actual airlines and the flights are not only limited, but they are subject to cancellation in the event of change in circumstances. So it is important for individuals to determine whether they take these or the personal decisions that they take. The town hall today will be focused on sharing information, sharing experiences on the ground, reiterating the messages of being sheltering in place, staying away from windows, ensuring that you follow local authorities, you identify the closest shelter in the event that it becomes necessary, and local authorities guide you to move to such shelters. Again, to monitor the flight availabilities, as well as to ensure that as best as possible you have basic supplies of food and water in the event that it becomes restricted for you to be able to do your regular groceries, etc. during this point in time. Clearly, movement is restricted in different areas more than others. We want to again, just encourage calm and continued caution in the sources of news that you listen to. The relevant authorities in the Gulf states have been doing an excellent job in ensuring that on social media, clear information is available, and they too are encouraging that you listen only to verified sources, because it is this kind of time where misinformation becomes rife and people seek to take advantage of vulnerabilities and anxiety. So we want to remind you as well that the ministry has provided a consular number for wherever you are. It is +1 876 391 8105, +1 876 391 8105. And this number, don't worry if you call it and it rings without an answer, leave a message or send a WhatsApp. It is monitored and callbacks are made. And I'm asking Jamaicans, please don't decide you're going to try and test out the number. It's working. It's not for you. It's for people who are in a state of emergency. I know you may be interested in checking, etc., but please, let's not overburden the line and thinking that, you're going to play your own part as a citizen journalist. I assure you that it's working. We continue to monitor and check. And it is working. The phone is consistently charged and it is consistently monitored. But there is time taken sometimes to return messages, WhatsApp or voicemail, as you prefer, but both will be responded to. I also want to share the number that has been provided by High Commissioner Hall, which also allows for persons to reach out by WhatsApp and message. And this is +91 88 26 26 43 63. So this contacts the mission in Delhi. It similarly is monitored, and perhaps given time zones, you may feel more comfortable trying to work with that number. Reminding you as well that thus far, internet connections have remained up, phone connections have remained up, so persons who want to get through to their loved ones should be able to so do. If you are having difficulty, however, feel free to contact one of these numbers, provide us with the information that you have, and we will make efforts as well. And I know people keep asking about evacuation. So thus far, we have heard this morning of the British contemplating or moving towards operating some evacuation procedures, and that the French are also similarly considering same. Other than that, all countries have been advising their populations to monitor commercial flight availability within safe airspace notifications and to make personal determinations regarding their safety, but that departure is generally recommended where they feel it is safe. So I want you to take that context as the basis within which you ask the question of the Government of Jamaica, and that you also consider the safety of your friends and family who are overseas. Please help with keeping them calm and united. And I hope that the town hall, I have every confidence that the town hall will go well this morning as our communities share information, share messages of comfort, as well as ensure that any contingency planning and guidance that they're able to give from the ground, that they are able to so do under the auspices of our High Commission. So thank you again for allowing me, Minister Morrison, and I use the word allow loosely, as she did corral me here this morning. But thank you for bringing me here this morning to share this information, as we had planned to do it later, but bringing it forward, I think, was a useful opportunity. And we continue to pray for the safety of all our people overseas, their families, and in particular in the Middle East, where they are generally working in the teaching environment, but also involved in many different sectors, from accounting, law, and irrigation, mining, and various sectors. So we are in every space, as always, and we just pray for safety, and we pray, as always, for peace. Thank you, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, who was on her way to the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade when we spoke, and she agreed to turn back to come and make the statement here. And so I thank you. I think it does add a lot of context and texture to what we're doing here at our post-cabinet press briefing. So thank you very much, Minister Johnson-Smith, for being here. And so our last minister up, we saved the best for last. Is that what it is? Minister Chuck, he sits beside me in cabinet, and we have a good time during cabinet. So Minister Chuck this morning, he's not come since I've been Minister of Information. And so I'm very excited to have you here, and I look forward to seeing you every week. Please welcome Minister Delroy Chuck.
Thank you very much, my colleague, friend, Minister Morris Dixon, colleague ministers, colleague from the Ministry of Justice, and also everyone present. I know Minister Morris Dixon invited me many times, and there are many issues that can be discussed, but please allow me to just discuss one issue this morning. I'm really pleased to announce the key reforms contained in the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Amendment Act 2026 is now law. Although it was passed in the House and also in the Senate, we have to await the assent of the Governor General. He signed it on the 20th of February this year. But then, before it becomes law, it has to be gazetted, and it was gazetted, and I collected it yesterday. So, even though Minister Dixon has been asking me for the last 2 weeks, I said, no, I need to get this out. It has been pending for quite a few years. Today, as I said, it is now law. For your information, the Criminal Records in Rehabilitation of Offenders Act establishes a two-stage framework for addressing the criminal records of rehabilitated persons. The first stage provides that upon the expiration of the prescribed rehabilitation period, a qualifying conviction is automatically treated as spent, and the individual is regarded in law as a rehabilitated person. The second stage permits the rehabilitated person to apply to the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Board for the expungement of the spent conviction from his or her criminal record. In considering such applications, the board must conduct its own inquiries and be satisfied that the applicant has in fact been rehabilitated and that the granting of expungement will not prejudice the interests of justice or national security. The government has long recognized that expungement plays a critical role in enabling rehabilitated persons to reintegrate into society. Access to employment, professional licensing, educational opportunities, and international travel may all be adversely affected by the existence of a criminal record. The reform is therefore grounded in the principle of a meaningful second chance. The persons who have paid their debt to society and have demonstrably benefited from reform and rehabilitation should, in appropriate cases, be afforded the opportunity to move forward without the enduring stigma of a criminal record. However, the government is also mindful that some applicants who were otherwise rehabilitated were previously unable to secure expungement due to certain inbuilt statutory limitations. This Amendment Act looks at what is an appropriate compromise, having regard to our current realities. The central objective of these amendments is to strengthen and modernize the expungement framework in Jamaica by expanding access to expungement in appropriate cases, clarifying the decision-making framework of the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Board, and increasing efficiency and fairness in the process. I will now take us through 5 reforms brought on by this Act. First, the expansion of eligibility. A major reform is the empowerment of the Board to consider applications for expungement where the sentence imposed was more than 5 years, but not more than 10 years. So that a person who got a conviction for even expungible offense, but got 6 years, it could not be expunged because 5 years was the limitation. Now that person is eligible for expungement, eligible, so that you will see shortly the process. Under the amendment, the rehabilitation period for such offenses will be 15 years. So after the person has served their sentence, they're out in the community, they're eligible after 15 years to be considered for the expungement of their conviction. For persons under 18 at the time of the offense, the rehabilitation period will be 8 years. This recognizes that meaningful rehabilitation can occur even in serious cases, and that individuals should not be permanently excluded from opportunity where they have demonstrably reformed. The second reform is automatic expansion for older, non-custodial sentence where the convictions attracted a sentence that was non-custodial. The Act also provides for the automatic expungement of certain non-custodial convictions, where the sentence was imposed and completed prior to January the 1st, 2005, and the individual has not been convicted of another offense. In cases where a person has been convicted of a single offense, and in the judgment of the court, the seriousness and circumstances of the offense did not warrant imprisonment, and where the sentence was completed prior to January the 1st, 2005, a worthwhile concession is being made. In such cases, and in the spirit of affording a genuine second chance, the individual automatically benefits from expungement without being required to undergo the application process. So what happened is that there are tens of thousands of persons before who got conviction for a single offense. They got a non-custodial sentence. But if they apply for those sentences, it would burden the expungement board. So we have said they need not apply if it's a single offense for a non-custodial sentence before 2005 and no further offense has been committed. If they ask for police record, it would show no convictions. This approach would allow resources to be refocused on more complex matters requiring consideration of the board. The effect of this provision would be that individuals who have already completed a 20-year rehabilitation period stand to benefit. This mirrors approaches adopted in jurisdictions such as the Bahamas and Canada, where records are expunged after the passage of a rehabilitation period without the necessity of a formal application. The third reform is the removal and adjustment of certain offenses. The bill removes offenses from the third schedule, the list of offenses for which convictions may not be expunged, thereby widening access in appropriate circumstances. A lot of people are interested to hear this one. Offenses under the Dangerous Drugs Act have been removed, as well as any offense under Section 3 of the Malicious Injuries to Property Act, that is setting fire to dwelling house, and any offense under Section 39 or 40, burglary or housebreaking. So all offenses under the dangerous drugs, many of them committed 30, 40 years ago, they are now eligible for expungement. Once it can be demonstrated that they have had no other interaction with the law or, tainting their character for the last 20 years, they will now be eligible. A number of persons, in fact, will benefit because a number of persons in the 80s and 90s, they tried to deal and export in ganja, cocaine, and other drugs. They will now be eligible for expungement. Many of them have tried to get expungement, but because the law did not allow it, they were unable to do so. So they are now eligible. In removing it from the third schedule, we also included housebreaking and burglary, if that was the only offense. If they housebreak or burgle and commit another offense, such as rape or robbery in the house, then they will not be eligible for expungement. In addition, the board will be empowered to expunge offenses committed in foreign jurisdictions where similar offenses appear in the third schedule, but this is subject to proper safeguards. So if the offense was committed abroad because of the relationship with many foreign countries, those offenses are put in the Criminal Records Office, but they are now eligible to be expunged from the Jamaican record, whether or not they're expunged abroad. In many cases, they're expunged abroad, but because they're in the third schedule, we could not expunge them. this reform allows, where offenses are committed abroad, that they're eligible for expungement here after this, with this law. Now, there are clear criteria for board decisions. For the first time, the Act will explicitly outline the matters the board may consider when reviewing an application. In other words, when the board meets, they actually not only listen to references or read references and recommendation, they must consider a number of factors: the nature and gravity of the offense, social inquiry and psychological reports and records, completion of rehabilitation or resocialization programs, evidence of remorse or accountability, participation in restorative justice, restitution to victims, the applicant's age at the time of the offense, any international obligations, and whether the applicant has reoffended. Indeed, if the applicant has reoffended, it almost a stop and the possibility of expungement. It is our hope that this will strengthen public confidence in the process. We are also going to strengthen the board because we expect that there will be many more applications. So the membership of the board will be adjusted and its quorum requirements also adjusted. Instead of 3 to 5 members, the Act now requires that the board is comprised of 7 to 9 members. It is our intention to appoint 9 members to allow for the greater efficiencies and a greater cross-section of representation. Let me be very clear. This bill does not weaken safeguards. It carefully balances the need of rehabilitated individuals to reintegrate into our society and the need to protect public safety. Rehabilitation is a cornerstone of justice. When individuals have served their sentence, demonstrated reform, and lived law-abiding lives for many years, they should not be indefinitely burdened by past mistakes. Some may say that these amendments do not go far enough, but the Act as it is now represents one of the most liberal expungement regimes in the region. The regime and the Act, however, remains under constant revision. And it is our hope that if crime and criminality in our nation continue to trend downwards, there can be even further liberalization of the law in the future. I make this point because it is important to recognize that we came under significant pressure to remove other offenses from the third schedule and to allow, for example, persons who have been convicted decades ago for illegal possession of firearm, use of firearm, robbery and shooting with intent, and even though it was committed 30, 40 years ago. In the present atmosphere, where guns are used to commit many crimes, to kill, over 75% of our murders in Jamaica are committed with the use of an illegal gun. It would be inappropriate at this time to expunge any offense where a firearm is involved. I can only urge those persons who come to the ministry, petition me, petition members of parliament, that if we are to remove offenses with guns, we need to get gun crimes down. And what is happening in our society? Crime is trending down, but it must trend down even much more before we even consider expanding the expungement to include even possession of an illegal firearm. Believe me, there are many persons who cry, send references begging, pastors who are now, in the minister of religion. But we just cannot do it in the present atmosphere. I can only appeal to persons who make this petition, and especially those who have benefited with this second chance, to promote a message of peace, peaceful and crime-free Jamaica, as we continue our efforts to make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. Every single Jamaican must work towards that focus. These are matters that the government is determined to make Jamaica a peaceful and prosperous place. And those who have got a second chance, we beg of you, assist us. In conclusion, this act recognizes accountability, but importantly, it also recognizes redemption. We remain committed to ensuring that our criminal justice system promotes not only punishment where necessary, but meaningful rehabilitation and reintegration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Chuck. That was very, very helpful, and it's so good to have you also, Minister. His state minister is here, and I'm very glad to have her here with us, the Honorable Marissa Dalrymple-Filbert. So before we get into the questions, and we will be taking questions, there are a number of individuals who don't usually come to these that are here, and I just wanted to get an opportunity to recognize you before we go into the questions. I had noted that the Jamaica Prefects Association members, a few of them are here. Can you stand, please, so we can recognize you? It is National Prefects Week, and so we have two of them here looking all lovely, and so we want to thank you for being here this morning with us. We also have today with us the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students. There should be some students here who are a part of that movement. It's good to see you all. Thank you for coming. And we also have members of the Youth Council of Jamaica with us. Are there anyone? Oh, okay. I see you. Good to have you here. It's a day of men for your association. Very good. And we also have Mr. Alvin Lawson, Dean of College at Mico University here. Thank you for being here. And we have some other representatives from Mico University. Can you all stand, please? Wonderful. Thank you for being here. I invite our lovely young people here every week. Every time we have post-cabinet press briefings, I invite different groups because it's important for young people to feel a part of governance and the governance process. And I think coming to a post-cabinet press briefing, and I thank you, ministers, for being so open. They get to see ministers live and direct. They get to hear about policies. They get to hear what's going on in cabinet right there, right in front of them, and they can come and take pictures with you after. It means a lot to them. And it's important for us. I mean, we are going to be gone at some point, and some of them even tell me that they're going to take my job, and that's great. And I want that. We want to see the next generation. And so we're very thankful to all of you for coming today. Hopefully you've learned something because it's been a very good post-cabinet press briefing today. And so having acknowledged all of those who are here visiting with us, I now open for questions from our media that's here today.
Good morning, Minister. Good morning to everyone.
How are you?
I am fine. It's good to be back. So we will begin our Q&A segment with the ever-present Mahiri from Nationwide.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I have one question for each presenter. So we're going to start off with you, Minister.
Hey,
I know when there were issues stemming from the fuel crisis in Cuba, the government did reach out to students Jamaican students rather, in Cuba, just to make sure all was well. Has similar communication been extended to any Jamaican students who may be in the Middle East at this time?
That would be a part of the overtures that we've seen and the engagement coming from the Minister of Foreign Affairs. So when you ask your question for Minister Johnson-Smith, she can elaborate a bit more on that one.
Okay, well, hopefully she remembers it.
Yeah, she will. She will.
Oh, well, the second question was for Minister
Okay,
Johnson
Minister
Smith.
Johnson-Smith.
So, during the CARICOM meeting in St. Kitts last week, I know U.S. Congressman Carlos Jimenez was none too pleased with the Prime Minister's comments on Cuba. And I know following his speech, there would have been meetings held with the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio. In terms of that meeting, was that brought up in the meeting, and do the U.S. and Jamaica share the same opinion on the Cuban regime?
That's quite a complex question, Mahiri, and I hope my answer will be sufficient for you. So we took note of the statement, the tweet. I'm not going to elevate it to a statement, but I will note it as a post that was made in social media. But we are 100% confident that the broad acceptance and recognition of the Prime Minister's statement was that it was balanced, it was visionary, it was realistic, it expressed the complexity of the circumstances of the relationship of Cuba with the region, while recognizing our grounded and fundamental beliefs in democracy and freedom and open markets as we practice and live here every day, and that the administration broadly recognized it as such. So our meetings with Secretary Rubio and members of his delegation, as we all engaged at different levels, was entirely cordial, was productive, and you would see that from the posts made by Secretary Rubio himself. And therefore, there's really no concern regarding any perhaps misplaced emphasis on or misplaced perspective that might be taken by an individual as opposed to a broad recognition of the strong partnership that continues to subsist between the U.S. and Jamaica.
And any word on the students in the Middle East?
We have not been advised. No one has made themselves known to us as a student in particular. So we, as far as we're aware, all professionals, where families exist, they are as a family unit, and therefore individuals haven't been brought to us as students, as they would be minors. If that information changes, then we will adjust our engagement accordingly.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. Third question is to Minister Vaz. Question, Minister. In terms of the response from the electricity sector to Hurricane Melissa, would you say that this response, how we've gotten to where we are in March, would you say it serves as a blueprint for disasters going forward, or are there still aspects of the response that you think should be tweaked and improved?
I think when you compare the response of the JPS with Beryl, which was 1 year prior to Melissa, you would see the improvements. I would say that the recovery time of 124 days for a Category 5 plus catastrophic hurricane is absolutely miraculous. And I think it sets a standard and a bar internationally for a third world country to have recovered the way we did, with a collaboration between the government and the utility company. Many, many first world countries that have had similar experiences have not even come near in terms of the response. And I think it's something that has been noted internationally. And I'm sure that it will be an exceptional response that will be monitored and learned from by many other countries in the future.
And lastly, question to Minister Chuck. Could you comment on yesterday's Joint Select Committee focusing on the Child Diversion Act and how that process has been taking place up to this point?
The Child Diversion Joint Select Committee is going extremely well. We have had some good presentation. unfortunately yesterday stuck to consensual sex, whether we should decriminalize or not. But we also had a mentor, and it was a most impressive presentation from the mentor, who indicated in dealing with the mentees, she had actually mentored about 10 mentees. It allowed the committee to see the relationship with the mentees and how so many youngsters have recovered and coming out of darkness to see the light. We have quite a few more presentations. The Minister of Education team will be, CPFSA will be there next Wednesday. We also have presentations from the Children's Advocate, and we are inviting any others who would like to make presentations. But we can see that some adjustments will be made to the Child Diversion Act. It's a very successful act, but we still want to improve it to make sure that many of our youngsters who have gone awry can be recovered.
Thank you, Mahiri.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Dwayne Williams, and I am the Deputy Communications Director for the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students. So my question is directed to Honorable Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith. So, Minister, my question is in relation to the students that are currently studying in Cuba. In light of evolving economic and geopolitical conditions, could you advise us on what specific contingency measures the government has established to safeguard these students should circumstances deteriorate? More particularly, what structured emergency response framework exists to ensure their protection, welfare, and, if necessary, safe repatriation? Furthermore, could you outline the potential logistical, diplomatic, or financial constraints that may affect the state's ability to coordinate emergency transport at short notice, including any challenges relating to airspace, charter arrangements, or bilateral cooperation mechanisms?
Wow. Did Mahiri give you that question?
That is a question for answer by thesis. Yes. That is not a question for a quick postcard response. But I want to commend you on the clear thoughtfulness that you have applied to the issue. You have sought to identify, I would say, the broadest possible scope of issues that could be considered in respect of students in Cuba, and that is some feat intellectually. So I want to commend you on your approach to the question. As to my capacity to answer, that's a different debate. But, the circumstances in Cuba are quite different, for example, by contrast to what's happening in the Middle East now, meaning that there are hardships that are being experienced there and varying information regarding the likelihood of improvement. So, for example, there was a meeting between my permanent secretary and the ambassador of Cuba in Kingston just yesterday, where she shared an expectation that things will improve in the next 2 weeks. In that context, what does one contemplate a framework that is considering at all times a worst-case scenario to be imminent? The engagement with our students is direct. We have, as you know, established a WhatsApp group that has allowed students who were not registered with us to make themselves known to us. As we have shared before, depending on where they are located, the impact of the fuel outages, etc., differs. Students are also at different stages of their studies and accordingly have different levels of anxiety about their circumstances weighed as against their desire to return home. So there's no homogeneous sense of a desire to return. Their primary concern, as has been brought to our attention, has been how to continue their studies if they were to return. Their concern has been how to obtain their transcripts, because they would need them in order to be elsewhere. We have encouraged them to ask their institutions, as we have been guided by the Cuban authorities, because most of them are private. And therefore, the institutions, and even those who are on government, the institutions manage academic matters and administrative matters just like a university here. So Minister Morris Dixon could not issue a transcript or issue a diploma or even direct UE to do so. And it is exactly like that as it is around the world. Academic matters are managed by the institutions directly. So what we're asking students is to advise us if you have made a request of your institution, what has the response been and what are the challenges, if any? Meaning it could be that they say it's going to take 6 months. And that is a particular challenge. We can say, is there any way that this could be expedited? Is there a process that we can do that can consolidate these approaches, etc.? Or it may well be a matter of cost. Is this something that we could assist with? Then bring it to our attention. But without any broader, any more detailed information than we have now, we are unable to take the matters further because we've engaged with the ministry, we've engaged at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs level with Cuba, we've engaged at the ambassadorial level, and we have also been present at the most recent diplomatic corps briefing that took place in Havana. I think it was last week. No, it was just week before last, where they advised that they would be appointing focal points where countries had concerns about their students. Up to yesterday, I asked whether the focal points had yet been appointed, and I was advised that they had not yet been appointed, but this is a matter I asked our ambassador to follow up on directly with the ministries, because, of course, it's cross-Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the ministry that's responsible for education and public health. All of the students are in medically related or medical studies. It's at very least a narrow scope of engagement. Again, because there is no exact trigger point, and I've spoken with all my CARICOM colleagues in person, and we remain in contact among ourselves by WhatsApp and at the ambassadorial level by WhatsApp and in person on the ground in Havana. And at this point, no country is contemplating any evacuation. At this point, those who are students, for example, who are in hospitals, they have more electricity than those who are not. We are seeking to install a solar system at our embassy because the embassy itself is severely challenged. So, and the staff there, I really have to express appreciation to them publicly because they are standing up under the strain. And but we are hopeful that we will be able to operate more predictably in terms of our hours when we are able to install the solar system. So there is a framework in place. I believe you had asked about a structured framework. There is a plan that is in place, but it is, again, something that would be that would unfold depending on different circumstances, and perhaps not a matter that would be that we would share necessarily in detail here. But again, I commend you on your question. I hope I helped with sufficient information, and I will write the thesis.
Thank you, Minister. And I think we have one last question from one of our micro students.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Jamaria Crumby from the Micro University College. My question is directed to the Honorable Delroy Chuck. So how does the amendment to the Criminal Record Rehabilitation of Offenders Act 1988 ensures that individuals seeking expungement have demonstrated genuine rehabilitation, and what specific indicators does the government consider when determining whether a person has been successfully reintegrated into society?
All right. Thank you for your question. Minister Chuck, do you want to be a lawyer?
Well, it was up to now. You did not have the specific matters that are taken into consideration in determining whether an applicant should get expungement. As I indicated, the Act now provides for several matters to be taken into consideration. such as, I read out a few earlier, the nature and gravity of the offense, social inquiry reports, the references that come in, the issue of whether the person has definitely gone through a rehabilitation period. We also get a police report, so that many things are taken into consideration before the person's application is allowed. So that what has happened over the period since, over the last 10 or more years, is that a number of persons have actually applied. Several have been refused. But many have actually, when they follow the process, they get the opportunity for the second chance. As a good indication of what has happened, up to last year in 2025, we had, 1662 applications, and 1,555 were granted. 380 were refused. Now, you can see in 2026 so far, we have had 211, 168 have been granted, 5 have been refused. What usually happens, though, is that people would come to the ministry or speak to a lawyer to check whether or not the conviction that they have can be expunged. So that unless it is outside the third schedule, they very likely would not apply. So they normally, if they feel that the conviction is one which can be expunged, sometimes we assist them at the ministry to indicate if you apply for an illegal possession of conviction, the answer is it doesn't make sense. The answer is no, because it is not an expungible offense. So they usually don't apply. But if it is an expungible offense, they apply. Now, the process is fairly straightforward for those who want a conviction expunged. They pay for a police record at the TAG, and they use that because they would have given their fingerprint, and they have the police record. They have a copy of the tax receipt with the police record, go to the ministry, and put in an application which has to have 2 references along with it. Now, we don't just take the police record and use that at the moment. We still ask the Criminal Records Office for a police report, which oftentimes take a little while because the police report not only use the police record, but may well do additional checks to assist the expungement board in deciding whether or not to grant the application. Okay? And just for information, anyone who wants to know the process or want to inquire of any matters from the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs can call 888-JUSTICE. Mm-hmm. And we have toll-free 888-JUSTICE and get all the information about justice.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Minister. And that was our last question for today. And students, I saw many of you taking notes, and I'm very proud of you for taking notes. And let me remind you what you're supposed to leave here and tell everybody. When they ask you what happened at Post Cab, you're going to say, Minister Vaz spoke about electricity restoration, and we're at 99%. This is world standards. So you're going to stand up high as Jamaican young people and say Jamaica has been the best at this. And you're also going to say your government has done this. JPS could not have done this without the money that was provided by the Government of Jamaica. And that could only be provided because of good fiscal management. So you have to put everything together. 124 days of restoration. 124 days. After a Category 5 hurricane, you must be proud and go and speak about that. You also said we're renegotiating the license, and that's moving ahead. So while we're fixing up what happened in the West, we're also looking at a better license for you. We're also, you heard, they've been exploring oil and gas, but none don't find yet. So don't go out there and say anything like that. We're going to wait on Minister Vaz. When Minister Vaz says it is there, then it is there. All right? And then he also spoke about rewiring grants. There are a lot of Jamaicans who just cannot afford to do the rewiring for themselves, and that's why JPS has not been restored for them. And the ministry is doing work there in supporting these individuals. So that's what you're going to tell them. And then you're going to say that Minister Johnson Smith was here. Wasn't even supposed to be here, but she turned back to come and brief Jamaica on what's happening in the Middle East and what our Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade is doing. We are on top of it. Our minister and the team there, they have registered citizens. They have 178 registered now. If you know anyone who is in the Middle East, ask them to register. And they're going to be doing a town hall today. And they'll be keeping in touch with our citizens who are there. And across your screen, you would have seen the toll-free numbers that Minister Johnson Smith would have given. Please pass them on. You will also say, Minister Chuck was here with Minister Dalrymple Filbert, and they spoke about expungement, and it had a fancy name, which was Criminal Records Rehabilitation Offenders Act. It's now law, he showed you. So even after he debates it in the House, and I got to pilot it in the Senate, even after that, it's not law. The Governor General has to sign it, and then after the Governor General signs it, it has to be gazetted. And so he taught you that, how we make laws in Jamaica. And he also said that this is a government that believes in second chances. And that's what that law is about. And so I think you have a lot of things to go and tell Jamaica about. And again, it's National Prefects Week. We didn't tell you the theme. The theme is Push to Start. Leading with purpose, serving with pride. No school left behind. That is a beautiful theme. Our young people are doing really wonderful things in our country. And this week is also Journalism Week. And the theme for Journalism Week is wonderful. It is truth always. And that's important. That's why you listen to Postcab and you listen to Minister Vaz. Because you want the truth, students. There's a lot of misinformation, disinformation. You notice we come here with the ministers, we take any question. Any question the media wants to ask us, we take it. We make ourselves available because we believe in a free press. That's what we believe in. Our democracy is based on that. And this is an example of that. And there's a lot going on in Journalism Week in terms of church services, which Senator Morgan had gone to represent me at that. That was on Sunday. And they even have a workshop on including ethical reporting in children. So they're looking at how do you report when there's a matter relating to children. So it's really a good week, and they have their award ceremony. On Sunday, there's a big day too. Sunday, March 8th, is International Women's Day. And the theme for that is Give to Gain. And this is really challenging everyone to move beyond rhetoric and to actually do things to improve the circumstances of women globally. And so in Jamaica, usually Minister Grange would be here, but we already had our lovely ministers represented this morning. But I know she will be talking a lot more about what her plans are for International Women's Day. And so after a really good post-cabinet press briefing this morning, all that's left for me to say is just thank you for tuning in. And we just continue to pray for all Jamaicans, wherever they are, that God will bless them and that God will continue to bless Jamaica land we love. Thank you all.